ultimately it's the Wild West when it comes to media and when it comes to the online space. People are just putting out things. There's reputable news sources totally putting out garbage, fake AI slop. There's accounts that are just tons of AI slop. The dead internet theory is real. A lot of the things that you see on there are regurgitated, repurposed AI slop, propaganda, pushing narratives, of course. But then there also is real people saying real things, and there's real information to be assessed, real data to be taken in, and insights to be gleaned. But simultaneously, it requires real people speaking up. So that's what I'm trying to do here. Like, be a real one, talking to you guys, being like, "Yo, what's up? What's good?" We here, we tapping in, and we're giving our honest observation, opinion, feedback, and sharing what I think is important and what people can pay attention to. And it doesn't really matter like people are nervous or scared or people don't have a full, picture of a lot of things. You just got to share who you are, where you're at authentically. That's what we need because so much of the stuff out there may sound nice, may sound sophisticated, right? As it is because it's all sophistry. Like that's it, bro. Like most of this is sophistry. Most of this is crafted arguments trying to make a point rather than staying true to the truth. Right. So if you're a real one and you're walking that line of truth, maybe, you don't spit it or you don't speak it like how other people do. That's fine. You just got to say it how you say it. Do you, boo boo? Listen, do you be real? And that's what's going to win because we have to, no matter what, people looking in at me and this, what we have going on here, they shouldn't take this all at face value. They should allow it to, be something that they understand and then make their own opinions. That's the most important thing because I'm just a reflection to you. If you're hearing me, then you're somehow this data is in your sphere for a reason. So we're all leveling up in our own different ways here. And it's important that we recognize that. But that brings me to the more kind of that's kind of what's going on in the world from a geopolitics standpoint. But then it comes down to the individual here and who we are, like the person watching this on your phone or wherever. Right here, this is where it comes down to understanding like who we are internally, our spirit, our mind, and how that is within this body that we have. And that is where I think there's a significant portion of the population who is being psychologically traumatized in whether it's to submission, whether it's into apathy, people just tapping out, experiencing like, yo, there is way too much bad stuff in the world going on. Everything's a psyop, everything's propaganda, everything's fake. And they just quit and they stop having emotional responses to things and they start seeing, footage of what's happening in Lebanon and they're like, whatever. And you're like, bro, like, nah, that's real. But simultaneously, we have to pay attention to our communities as well. And when we're so fatigued, it's hard for us to be able to even show up in our communities, let alone showing up for ourselves, let alone showing up for our families, for our loved ones. It's important to be able to, recognize that there's an emotional, energetic toll and tax that comes with being engaging with such dystopian realities that are our reality and actuality. So taking that into mind, I think that there's a lot of young men because we're so chronically online, given that the world around us is pretty bleak, they're taking in all this stuff and that's really destroying any semblance of like a humanity left in a lot of people. And we see people and you can see it, there's like these eyes in which they kind of they're it's not glossed, there's the gloss and the glaze, but there's also an eye that's kind of like already broken. The spirit inside of them is broken. Some people would call it NPCs, but I think there's even a deeper layer to it where some of these people are basically developing more psychopathic, sociopathic, and narcissistic traits, and not in like I'm a therapy guy. No, just more like people are genuinely not having much introspection, not really feeling their emotions as much, and just being oriented in a more material reality and existence. And so, well, what do you do in this world? You want to aggregate resources. Basically, you want to get money at all costs. And that's where we see people start acting in really selfish, non community based, non human ways. It's very self serving. And people are, going to be greedy and envious and jealous and lustful, and they're going to want to be able to do things that are all self-gratifying. When you're experiencing a world that's so bleak and people realize like it might all be hopeless, or they come to that understanding for a little bit of time, they're going to be in a place in which they're like, dang, this is nothing really matters. So they're just going to be hedonistic. And I think that is an archetype in young men that especially young women need to be careful of right now. And it sets the it makes it so that I kind of lay out what is happening when it comes to this information war that is a psychological war that is leading us into a spiritual war, because whatever we hold in our mind is what our reality becomes, right? And that's the piece where when they start to play out what thought forms you're holding in your mind, they're able to control from a spiritual energetic harvesting piece kind of what's going on. And so that's the part that I think is important to address once we take in the real, the more material objective facts of the world, and then say, okay, hey, things are shifting, things are changing, people are about to be glitching out, people's mind body spirit complexes are about to be pressed. um we need to start to be protective of our energy and start to recognize that some people are being activated as agents in the matrix here, because they're not ready to let go of these paradigms, or they don't even know what that means. The concept of walking on water is scary, but I mean, walking in full faith is a teaching here in which you hold in your mind, you know it to be as such, and that full belief is then what you choose to do is kind of that step that materializes under each footstep that you take in an uncertain future. And I think Banksy just released a painting in which he showed there was, a man in a suit walking off of a ledge, and he was blinded by a flag that was covering his face. And I think that's the concept of the nation state, and a lot of these old ideas that we held in our minds are really blinding us to where we're stewarding humanity for the future altogether. And that's a big piece here that we need to take into consideration. And humanity implies mind, body, spirits of all people and the greater collective of us as well. And with that, I want to bring up your boy PD Hegseth, because the Iran Lego video that you see that Breaking Points is about to address, I think is something that demonstrates the state of some of the young men in this world who are okay tyrannizing the feminine, are okay tyrannizing maybe things that aren't so material combative. Basically, if they can't be if they're not physically stronger than them, then they have ultimate supreme authority over them. And that is a tyrannical viewpoint that doesn't respect the sovereignty of people, and especially women, because women are physically weaker in a lot of ways. But the biggest piece is from a spiritual standpoint, we need to encourage the women to speak up, because the women are the ones who have the children, and the children are the ones who are inheriting this future that we're creating in our present reality right now. And they're the ones who are the most concerned, because they are like, yo, resources, sovereignty, freedom, these are big things when it comes to raising kids, because you have to think about the next 80 to 100 years, right? So in thinking about that, I think a lot of our women right now are in a place in which they should really be careful, because there's a lot of men and a lot of people in general who are exhibiting psychopathic, sociopathic tendencies because of how numb they are to the current state of the world. And that's causing them, when they engage in relationships with others, to be someone that's going to tyrannize, to imbue someone with fear, anxiety, doubt, shame, and be someone that's kind of like vomiting and espousing negativity from a standpoint of maybe physical words, physical violence, but also from an energetic standpoint as well. And the most, intimate level of energetic exchange is, sex when you're with someone. So like when you're with someone who is in this state of high anxiety, high cortisol, fear, shame, and maybe even perversion because of the things that they're exploring online, it's something where you need to take into account, like, yo, what am I letting into my energy space like that? And if you are a woman who understands that kind of queen energy, understands that divine aspect, and how you should be a channel for, what we want to be pursuing in this world. Like, we want to protect youth, beauty, femininity, and innocence, children, and the future, and inherently our earth, what gives us our resources. When we want to stand for that, you as a woman, and you want to stand for that, just recognize that it's important that you protect that energy, because a lot of the people that you may be letting in your space just in a casual basis don't really have that same energy, and then it's fucking up your vibe. So, if you high vibe, don't be fucking with the low vibe people.